to Utahns so that they can know what is happening here on Capitol Hill. It has been an incredible session. I do just want to add one caveat, and that is it looks like they're going to finish early tonight. They could finish at any time. We're hearing rumors of a 9:30 end time, so if we do get pulled out when they adjourn sign of diary, we will have to leave and go address them on the House and Senate floor. But until then, until we get pulled away, and hope springs eternal, it could still be midnight. You never know. We're excited to spend a little bit of time here with you tonight. It has been a long 45 days for sure, but it has been a very fruitful 45 days. And I think of 45 days that the citizens of Utah can be very proud of. We want to thank the legislature for their perseverance. These are very difficult times for legislators and their families. And unless you've been a legislator, and we both have, it's hard to really understand the toll that those 45 days take on them and their families. So we're grateful for their service. More than anything, we want to highlight some of the what we believe are victories for the people of the great state of Utah. We've been a state for 127 years, I believe, if my math is correct. And it's not often that you get to say that you are doing something historic, something that no other legislature has done, something that we've never done as a state. And there are lots of examples of historic things that were accomplished this legislative session. Importantly, the citizens of Utah will be getting the largest tax relief in our state's history by multiples. We're grateful for the wisdom of the legislature in carefully spending those dollars over the past few years. We have a wonderful economy created by the people of the state of Utah, which allows us to make those types of decisions and reduce the tax burden on the citizens of the state. We also want to thank them for the way that they have been forward-looking in adopting the many proposals that we put forward and that others have put forward when it comes to water conservation. There are several water conservation bills, including over $500 million in funding. When combined with the $500 million last year, that's over $1 billion in water funding. And it could not come at a better time or a more important time with all the snow that we have in the mountains. Our ability to get that water to places where it's desperately needed, most notably the Great Salt Lake, will pay dividends for generations to come. We also appreciate the $200 million approved for agriculture optimization. These are funds that will do two things. Of course, they will help our ag community be able to continue to produce the food that we need and allow them to do that with much less water, meaning that there will be more water into our reservoirs. And again, in this drainage, more water for the Great Salt Lake. We also had, again, historic funding when it comes to investments in education. We love our public schools, and so do 92% of Utah parents have a favorable impression of their school. And we are excited that we were able to get a significant increase in teacher pay, as well as optional all-day kindergarten, something that we have been working on for several years. This is a really big deal for the citizens of our state, something we think will be incredibly helpful. We eliminated school grading, which was never doing what it was intended to do, and again, getting more investments where they need to be. Historical funding for education now 3 years in a row, something we can all be very proud of. With that, Lieutenant Governor Henderson is here with us as well. I'm grateful for her leadership. She has worked on so many big issues during this session, and I would say even prior to this session. Over the interim, she worked relentlessly on many of our administration's most important priorities, and I'm excited to turn the microphone over to her to share some of those victories as well. Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Governor. It's great to be here, especially since it's the end of day 45. There are a lot of really big, important things that we've made some progress on, and I just want to highlight a couple of those. First one is something that is personal to me and my family, and that is domestic violence. We're very grateful that the legislature approved unanimously a bill that would require lethality assessments and data collection and sharing of people who have had those lethality assessments conducted for law enforcement throughout the state. This really important data collection and sharing, these reports are going to save lives. The legislation that we passed and the funding that the legislature has approved this legislative session will save lives. It will protect people like my cousin Mandy, who deserve to be protected. We're grateful to Commissioner Jess Anderson of DPS, CCJJ Director Tom Ross, our Senior Advisor Nubia Pena, and so many others for helping to get these measures passed. It's been monumental efforts, years in the making, and we're so grateful for the progress that we've made. Families is another important priority for our administration. We've focused on families and the health and well-being of children. We've made some very big monumental progress in that area as well this legislative session. I want to highlight two significant measures that are going to protect young children, our young people, from the harms of social media. First one is Senate Bill 152, which requires a parent or guardian to open social media accounts for minors. The next one is House Bill 311. This one increases regulation of social media companies. Now, these are really important first steps that will increase parental controls and increase holding social media companies accountable for their actions on these digital platforms. We're also working very hard to make sure that our kids and grandkids, when they grow up, can have a place to live here in the state of Utah that isn't in our basements. We want to make sure that they can afford a home, and the legislature is very supportive of these efforts, and we're grateful to them for that. House Bill 406 provides a streamlining for the process of housing applications. House Bill 364 increases low-income housing tax credits. And we know that making homes more affordable requires building more homes. And we appreciate working with Utah League of Cities and Towns to create policies that are going to increase the housing supply and create new pathways to housing ownership. We're also really grateful for the major investments in affordable housing and deeply affordable housing so that we can take care of the most vulnerable among us and the unsheltered. And the last bill that I want to highlight that we're really excited about is the expansion of postpartum Medicaid coverage to 12 months, from 60 days to 12 months. We think this is a really big deal. We're a family-friendly state. We want to make it better for people who want to have children in our state, and this was a big deal. I'm very grateful for the legislature for working with us on this very important measure. Governor Cox.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. As you can see, it's been a very busy session, but an incredible one for the good people of our state. So we've gone through most of the bills that I think are important to highlight, and there are only like 530 others that we didn't mention. Some records I don't love as much, and it looks like we'll be close to an all-time record for bills passed. I'm not sure where we are, but I think we're over 560 now, and if I'm not incorrect, I think the record's around 570 somewhere. So certainly a lot of bills that have been passed, but a tremendous amount of work has been done. And with that, we're happy to take some questions, if you have any.
Governor, tell us a little bit about any veto plans on the horizon.
Yeah, we don't have any veto plans on the horizon right now. That certainly could change. And as I mentioned to some of you before, we worked really hard during the session. We had a veto list that was probably 10 to 15 bills long just a week and a half ago. And every one of those bills either didn't pass or had substantial changes made to them. So right now we don't have a lengthy veto list, but we'll get requests from people. And as I mentioned, I have not looked through all 560 bills yet. We will do that over the next 21 days, and there's always a chance we'll see some vetoes in there.
But as of now, zero.
As of now, we don't have any that that are for sure vetoes. There are some that we know we'll be looking at very carefully.
Any you want to talk about?
No, you'll get to hear about them if we decide to veto them over the next 21 days.
So last month you told us that you hadn't had much of a chance to read what's in these abortion clinics. So
Correct, yeah.
have you decided if you're going to sign that?
I have, and we have decided to sign that bill.
Can you explain why?
Sure. Yeah, we looked at it. We talked to the partners that were involved in those negotiations. We were involved in some of those negotiations, but we felt like the guidance there was really important. This hasn't been reported as much, but one of the concerns with the trigger bill that medical providers had across the state was there was a lack of clarity that would have actually made it harder for them to perform legal abortions under that bill. What the hospitals had asked for was clarity so that they would know when it was okay and when it wasn't okay. And that was really important to the bill. So those medical providers were at the table and were supportive of the final product. Obviously not 100% of what they wanted, but I think it's really important that we get that bill signed. Other questions?
Governor, I know you talked about this before, but can you expand on how SB 152 would hold social media companies accountable? And do you anticipate a lawsuit over the bill?
So there are a couple ways that these bills, we have two bills out there that will hold social media companies accountable. So again, first of all, an important focus on parents and parents having the ability to approve new social media accounts for their children. We think that is first and foremost in everything that we do. We're also focusing on holding social media companies accountable for the damage that they are doing to our young people. And one of the ways that we're doing that is a presumption of harm to kids under the age of 16. And so that it would be incumbent upon the media companies to try to overturn that presumption, to overcome that presumption, and it empowers parents a private right of action to sue social media companies for damage that is done to their children. Do I anticipate a lawsuit? Yes, I do anticipate a lawsuit, and I can't wait. I can't wait to hold them accountable. I can't wait to get in front of a judge and jury with these media companies. It will be one of the happiest days of my life when we get to show the world what they've known and what they've been doing to our kids.
When will you sign the bills?
We will sign them in the next 21 days. Yeah, just in the next 21 days. We'll probably invite you to come when we sign those bills. I want to make sure every family in Utah gets to see me sign those bills.
Lieutenant Governor Henderson, do you know why the legislature effectively ended your security detail by cutting the appropriation for protective services in the Highway Patrol budget from $600,000 to $80,000?
We don't comment on our security.
Governor, can you talk about disbanding UPD and some of the communities that will impact over the next 2 years?
Well, I hope it won't impact those communities over the next 2 years. That was a bill that was negotiated, that was worked on by those communities. They still have the opportunity to come together, to sign agreements together, and to continue in a way that they feel is important. This really takes the state out of that and gives them that opportunity. So ultimately, that decision, as it always should be, will be left with the cities and communities in the county to figure that out, and I anticipate that they will. Any other questions?
Yes, Governor, what wasn't accomplished? What do you end the session with thinking, we still gotta do this?
Yeah, so I appreciate this question, and I almost hate to answer it because it's been such a good session, right? And I know it's more fun to write about conflict between the executive branch and the legislative branch, but we didn't get everything we asked for. No governor ever does, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to feel greedy because we actually got more than we asked for in some ways. But there's one thing that we've accomplished that isn't finished, that will have to be accomplished by the people of Utah. And that is the people of Utah will have a vote next year to determine if they're going to change the Constitution and in so doing remove the sales tax, the state's sales tax on food. So that literally won't be accomplished until next year. And I'm certainly hoping that the people of Utah will vote for that constitutional change that will allow that to happen. I'm still putting guardrails around what we do to fund education, but giving a little more flexibility to the legislature to balance the budget and again remove that sales tax on food. So that's a big thing. One of the things that we proposed that did not get funded was a one-year pilot project around free fares for transit in all transit districts across the state. We'll go back to the drawing board on that one, look at maybe doing something a little smaller, maybe doing a couple months, partnering with local municipalities so that we can see maybe, we did February last year, the municipalities did February last year, it was very successful. I would love to see maybe a summer month as well, looking at what free fare looks like in July or sometime like that, see what ridership looks like, see what we can do to help change behavior and get more people to give transit a try, get people off our roads. That's good for our air quality, it's good for our traffic, and we can't just keep widening corridors. At some point, we're going to run out of room to do that, and transit is a major piece of those future plans.
Well, Governor, what do you make of the fact that there was no smaller portion of that this session? You mentioned waiting until next session to try that. Why didn't you and the lawmakers negotiate a 1 month or 2 months?
Sure. So there are so many moving pieces during the session. We had some initial conversations with it, and they did not have any interest in moving forward on that piece, and so we said we would come back to the drawing board. When we look at doing something smaller, we're going to have to involve the cities and municipalities in that as well. And there's just not time in a 45-day session when you finally get a decision 20 days left in the session about where that's headed to pull something like that off. So we'll continue. We did do free fare during the All-Star Weekend, which was very successful. And so we're getting the data, collecting the data from UTA there. And I will say this though, just because we didn't get the money for free fare, the legislature was incredibly generous in funding transit-related projects. So transit infrastructure, we did get hundreds of millions of dollars in transit infrastructure money, which will allow us to do more double tracking, which is really important for the future of transit, allowing us to make so Front Runner isn't just coming every 30 minutes, which is a problem we hear all the time. If we could get that down to every 15 to 20 minutes, that would make a huge difference. And so that piece is happening. We got money for transit at the new point development, a new transit hub there. So all of those things are awesome. And so, I didn't get the $26 million or whatever it was we were asking for that piece, but we got hundreds of millions for other pieces that are maybe more important than what I was asking for.
So voters are going to decide on income tax restrictions and a food tax. Can you give your very best argument to them about those?
Sure. Yeah. Do you want to pay less for food?
We're not getting one-time money right now to do it right now. It's gonna take 2 years.
Yeah, it is going to take 2 years, but see, here's the problem. We cannot balance the budget and have a $200 million, which is what this is, reduction in the general fund, right? That's the whole problem. That's why we're here. We have these two buckets, and the one bucket can only be spent on certain things. There's no flexibility there, and it just happens to be the bucket where we have the largest amounts coming in. That's where the surplus is. So if you remove that $200 million from the sales tax, then there's nothing to backfill that with. Like now that means we don't have money for roads, we don't have money for transit, we don't have money for some of these other things that we're trying to do. And so we have to have this constitutional change if we're going to make such a significant reduction, which I think we should. And so again, this is not going to hurt education. We are having record spending with education. This will be the third year in a row that we've had record spending for education, and not once have we come up against the earmark. And so this is an easy call. It's an easy one for me to support. It looks like we're getting support from the education associations. That was the deal that was announced this morning with the new language, and so we feel really good about that prospect. And finally, I mean, this has been something we've worked on for years. If it takes us one more year to get there, we're going to be okay.
Sorry to interrupt everyone.
They're done.